one of my friends, another friend from WordCamp US, Thomas Raef is up next. All right. So those of you who know me know I've been around the WordPress space and had some deep dives on security. And the headline for Thomas from me is Thomas is the best kept secret about WordPress security that's out there. I didn't know Thomas until some articles came out about plugins, and maybe plugins aren't the best place for doing malware scanning. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've seen malware that opts out of malware scanners. I've seen that happen before because I used to clean hack sites. And then Thomas was the dude with the data. Thomas runs a business. We watch your website, and he is watching, I think, 6 million websites. I'm going to have to ask for some clarification, but he is here to talk about what the baddies are up to on targeting WordPress. And you are now going to be let in on the secret, the big secret in WordPress security. Thomas, where have you been hiding all these years?
Oh, hiding in malware, hiding in plain sight. I don't know what the right term is, but yeah, based on how I got into this industry, I never really had to do a whole lot of marketing. I connected with Bluehost early on, and they, at that time they had one guy, Richie Jackson, who I'm sorry to say has passed. But Richie was like the only guy in terms of service at Bluehost, and he just looked at it as somebody calls with malware. I don't know what to do. I've got the okay to send everybody to Tom. So that's what I'm going to do. So, I mean, we'd literally spend hours on the phone every day. And matter of fact, we were so close that he was telling me about this girl. I don't remember how old Richie was at that time. He was a young guy when he passed. But there was this girl, and he would tell me about her, and you could just tell in his voice that he was just enamored with this lady or girl. And so he'd ask me, what do you think I should do? And Richie, you got to ask her out. No harm. And so he eventually did. They wound up getting married, and yeah. So anyway, but he was the first person in terms of service for Bluehost, and that's how I got started. So that they're like, hey, how would you like if we started sending you business? Like, okay. So yeah, so I kind of stayed hidden because I won't say things came easily, but I got to focus most of my attention on the technology of malware and how to beat it and so forth. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I am so happy to now call you friend and to have you here on Kadence Amplify, because it's not just about our last session with Zach Stepek. Amazing, some of the cool things that he's doing with Kadence. But doesn't matter what you're doing with Kadence if there's security issues. It doesn't matter what you're doing with Kadence if there's SEO issues. There's lots of different aspects to WordPress that complement what you're doing that are foundational. And security is one of those things. I've been around the space for a while. I have seen maybe not all the malware you've seen, but I've seen some things. And I didn't have all the programmatic tools that you do to deal with some of it. So I got to deal with it by hand. But you know what? It's like driving a stick shift. I know.
there you go.
I'm so excited for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Do you have a screen sheet and screen share of something that you're going to show?
Yeah, I have a Google Sheets or whatever the heck they call it.
Okay,
Slides.
Great. Yeah, perfect. Down at the bottom, there's a present button, and you should be able to, if you go to, I think you can either share your screen or you can go to slides. If it's Google Slides, there's add a file from Google Slides, and then you can just stay on this screen and it will just toggle across for you. You can just hit your arrow keys as you go through it. And
all right, let's see here.
Yeah, hackers don't sleep. They are always doing something. That's one of the things I love about security is that there's always something learn to new to learn. There's always something. It's been a
Uh-huh.
morning.
I bet.
It's been a morning. We had a speaker, Hannah, who was going to be running track 2, is ill today,
Oh,
and so I had to scramble and get, Michelle Frechette is handling track 2. She's our hero today, and then we had a speaker that is also ill. I don't know what's going around, but I'm gonna take my immunity stuff later.
there you go.
Another speaker who was out sick, and so I
Oh,
filled
wow.
the time. So,
Well, that's good. I mean, you know, listening to you and Zach talk, and I've listened to you talk about security. It's like, the more I get to know you, the more I realize how much you know. The old saying about, uh, jack of all trades, master of none. I think you're like a Jane of all trades, but master of a lot of stuff. I mean, honest to God, you really are. I mean,
yeah.
you seem to know a lot about a lot, and that's just amazing.
I never stop learning, and I get very passionate about things. So I've been passionate about started with HTML and then CSS. I mean, I'm old, right? I look younger than my age. Shh.
You're old.
But I grew up with the internet. I grew up with, CSS. Well, JavaScript came first and learned how to do like image swaps for mouse overs before CSS was around and was able to do those types of things. CSS came along. I learned database stuff super early, um, active servered pages. And I don't want to go through my whole history. This is your hour, but I've done a lot and I'm super interested in a lot. So, and now I'm really interested in teaching all of that. And that's one of the reasons why I pitched the Amplify event and said we should do this because there's more to WordPress than just Kadence. And if people are going to be truly successful, we have to help in every way we can. So
Yeah,
that's why we're here.
this is a great platform.
Yeah.
I love the Cadence. You got me hooked on Cadence, so I am. We are in the process of converting our site over to Cadence and creating some landing pages based on talks that you've given and some of the stuff that Zach talked about today too. So I'm like, ooh, I was taking notes and like, yeah, this is awesome stuff. So
Nice.
yeah,
I told Nathan Ingram actually over at iTheme Solid Security, said, "If I can get Thomas on Cadence, I win the internet." So if I can so there's high stakes here.
yeah. No pressure, Tom. No pressure.
No
But
pressure. All right. I see your slides. I'm gonna pull those in and you can just toggle. You should be able to toggle with arrows down below, and I'm gonna show myself out and come back in for questions.
okay, sounds good. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Raef, founder of We Watch Your Website, and I'm going to be covering today the why and how of today's cyber criminals. Um, Quick little background on me: I've been doing website malware removal since 2007, and since then we've removed malware from over 5 million sites. And today, as we speak, we're now monitoring about 7.5 million websites around the world. So gives us a lot of insight. So um, first of all, you have to understand why hackers do what they do and why they're picking on WordPress. And probably you all know that WordPress is the most popular CMS platform out there. Um, and the hackers know, they're very familiar with the WordPress ecosystem. That they understand the hierarchy of everything. Um, they definitely know where the ins and outs are because their livelihood depends on it. I mean, these are professional hackers, even if they're only what they some people call script kiddies. These script kiddies um, are typically people that don't know enough to do the hacking themselves, but they know where to get the hacking tools and they know how to make money off of that. So, but those are script kiddies. Um, so they're very familiar with the ecosystem and how it all works. as well, and they know that like agencies have hundreds or thousands of websites. So, they, I know in talking to a number of agencies around the world, a lot of them deal with phishing. Um, which one of their people might get a bogus email saying, you know, this customer is requesting a refund. Click here to, um, counteract their actions, and to fight the dispute, or dispute the fight, dispute the claim. Anyway, so, and that, just by one of their people clicking on an email like that could, um, help the hackers get into their organization, even if they're all remote. Um, and then all that person needs to do at that point is to access a website, click on an admin, use a, um, management system, um, to control, hundreds or thousands of websites. And once they click into that, the hackers have stolen the information. A lot of times, even if it's just like username and password, they'll steal that. They also steal the cookies, the authentication cookies, as soon as you log in. So, they have so many ways of infecting sites, but their main, um, drive for all this is to make their money. So, just a few things. Hackers know that a lot of people, um, don't update as often as they should. Kyle, from the Tab, Facebook group, had a questionnaire go out, and are you aggressive or passive on updating? And it was very interesting, um, survey. Um, and I've always been of the type, because I'm from the security side of things. I've always been the type to promote, update early, update often. It's kind of like voting in Chicago: do it early, do it often. That's a joke, but, um, for updating WordPress, core, although core has been pretty stable over the years, they do have some security, updates, but plugins especially, themes occasionally. The last big theme that I recall, which probably about 10 years ago, was the Tim Thumb. There was a lot of themes and a lot of plugins also that used Tim Thumb, and didn't matter where you used it, hackers found it and they abused it and got into your website. Um, and then for number 3 here, I've got familiarity breeds contempt. Um, what that means, I've got dash local antivirus. Being in the computer industry, a lot of us feel like, I've heard this before from people, like, oh, I don't have an antivirus on my computer because I know what websites to stay away from. I'm like, really? Because we've removed malware from millions of sites, and I still don't know, just by looking at a site or presuming, somebody sends me a link, you know, I'm just presuming that it's safe site. Now I do have security set up on my local system so that I don't have to worry about that. But same time, you know, being in the computer industry, a lot of times we feel we get um, a sense of uh, just comfort, so we don't update. We don't protect things that are at the local level. Like, oh no, nah. I especially, nothing against Mac users, nothing at all, but Mac users always seem to feel from years ago that I'm on a Mac, I don't need antivirus. That's not true. So, um, at any rate, you definitely need antivirus, because hackers are looking for all ways of getting into your website. Now we've also got, I've got sharing is caring. A lot of times people, you work in an agency and find out that, like, some WP admins login credentials have been compromised. So, uh, we dig through the logs, find out somebody's logging in using that username and password from, recent case, Moldova. And the people are the people I talk to say that we don't have anybody in Moldova. Well, it's a pretty good sign that it's been compromised, and hackers are using it from a server or from a IP location in Moldova. So the point here to remember is that everybody who needs to log in as an admin should have their own account, because that way when we look in the logs, or the um, or the WordPress database, we can see in there, this was the user that was used to log in on this date from this IP address using this browser. Now, browser browser can be spoofed, but it just gives us more information so we can track down, whose account actually got compromised. And hackers know that they can hide, and they've got more people. Let's say I had a video up on my YouTube channel. Yeah, I actually have a YouTube channel um, about um, you work in an agency, somebody gives you their admin login, and now you're farming out you're subcontracting some of the work to somebody else. So you give them the login, and then they also maybe subcontract some piece of it out to another individual. So now there's like 4 of you in the chain that have the same login credentials. All it takes is for one of you to either use open Wi-Fi that's been compromised, or you have a local virus on your computer. Um, Hackers steal the username, password, and login URL, um, and log in as you. So like I said, sharing is caring, but don't share usernames and passwords. And I also have on here, you won't know until it's too late, because you assume that you're safe. We had a situation recently. Um, a guy was traveling overseas, took his laptop with him, and went on Wi-Fi in a local cafe overseas and logged in, thought nothing of it. Came back, and people are logging into his WordPress from all over the world. Why? Because there was probably a bogus Wi-Fi. Because he takes every precaution, almost every precaution, and but somebody compromised his information on an open Wi-Fi, and that's how they got in. So I said before, why hackers hack? First one, money. They all make money. Um, there was a outfit, I don't know if they're still around, but it's called RBN, Russian Business Network, and this was possibly about 10 years ago. It was estimated that they were making like $5 or $6 billion a year, so off of hacking. So not all of that was websites, but the fact remains, these people make a lot of money. And they like to redirect sites because some of the ways of them making money, they get paid for traffic. So in a case like that, they might put redirects up on your site. Those redirects could be in PHP or in JavaScript, but they're basically redirecting traffic to your sites to somewhere else that they're getting paid to drive traffic to. It used to be pharmaceutical sites up in Canada. That was just one instance. But yeah, just there's so many uh, revenues of stream. Was it Robert Allen wrote a book years ago, um, multiple streams of income. And I think every hacker in the world must be like must required reading for them, because they do have multiple streams of income. Um, they can infect your visitors. What they used to call drive-by infections. So they put some JavaScript up on there. JavaScript will run in the browser. and it does everything it possibly can to infect the visitor's local computer. They also get they also make money by stealing your resources. This is why hackers love when you're hosting your website on a VPS, or a cloud server. I'm not going to mention any names because they all have instances of hacked websites, and it's not their fault. But anyway, but hackers love those because once they get on there, they steal the resources. So now they've got a server at their access, to do what they want, and they can launch. Um, Not so many people host email on the same server anymore. So it used to be that they would send spam, from a server, like back in the cPanel, uh, WHM days. Uh, days. There's still sites using those platforms, but that was about it. People would hack into a website and then use it to send out boatloads of email, spam. So they're using your resources, and they also sell your resources. So they may hack in, find out that you have your server can send email, or they can use it to attack other websites. Again, there's so many ways of um, for them to use your resources, and they sell access to your server. They set up phishing sites. That's still a big one. We still see a lot of infected websites where hackers have uploaded just folders with literally thousands of files, and they're all phishing, different phishing sites, different phishing URLs. And this isn't so popular anymore, but it used to be. There was a website, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it. It's unimportant. But they used to have defacing competitions. So, like, if you were in the hacker groups um, online, you would see that they would announce a defacing competition. And basically, what it is they would see who could deface the most websites, like in a 2 to 4 hour window. And they would have a leaderboard on there. I mean, it was very organized. I don't know what the prizes were. Probably, nothing but bragging rights. But all they would do is just put up like some dark message up on all these websites, and then it could be verified. So, and I said, you know, how hackers make money. A lot of times they get paid for traffic. Now, some of you people might be in agencies, or you might be, involved with marketing people, and they're like, okay, we created this new site. Now we got to drive traffic to it. So you farm that out to somebody, a CEO guy. The CEO, I say guy, I mean person. The CEO person farms out different segments of it to other people. Somewhere along the line, there's a hacker waiting at the end, and his or her main job is to drive traffic to the site that you just created, and they're very good at that. So, um, that's one way that they can make money. They create residential proxies. Now, most of you, I'm sure, probably know what a proxy is, and it allows you to, like, go through a different IP address other than your own. So I'm here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's say if I wanted to visit a site, and it appears that that site only takes IP addresses from Germany. So I could find a proxy in Germany and connect to that, and then visit that website, and it's going to see the last the last IP address, and that IP address is coming from Germany, so it allows me to see that site. So residential proxies are a new thing for hackers. A lot of these sites that sell access to residential proxies, not all of them, some of them, a lot of them, they don't care where or how you get access to the computer, to the computing resources to create a residential proxy, they want it to add to their list because they get paid to. They can charge their customers based on how many proxies that customer uses. And this one, number 3 here, has been super huge lately. Installing info stealers. You can Google the term info stealers and you can see, I don't even remember the last count, but there's a lot of information. Hackers are constantly installing info stealers on people's computers. They know how to make it what they call FUD in the hacker world, fully undetectable. So you could take their virus and run it through virustotal.com, which is now, I believe, owned by Google. And you'll see that out of like 90 antivirus companies, none of them will detect this virus. So that's fully undetectable. And if I'm the creator of a virus, I can give you a warranty. I can tell you that if the virus I'm selling you to use for your nefarious activities, if in the next 60 days it becomes detectable by any one of those 90 antivirus companies, I'll recompile it, rehash it so that it'll fly under the radar again, and I'll give you an extra 30 days on top of it. So these info stealers, and like I said, one of the things that people don't realize is the amount of information that hackers steal with these info stealers. If I log into a WordPress site with a username and password, it not only steals the username and the password, but it also steals the login URL. So if I'm hiding the login URL with a variety of plugins, but if I'm hiding that WP admin or WP-login.php, all that information is sent to the hackers. So whether I call it, admin Tom, whatever I decide to rename it to, all that information is sent to the hackers. And they're also stealing session cookies, authentication cookies. Now, in the case of username and password, the best way to defeat that, 2 ways to defeat that, is have 2FA on your login. A number of security plugins offer that. Not that that's the best way to go, but they do offer 2FA. And the other thing, very simple, make it a requirement that your people log out. Don't just close the window. When you close the window, the cookie's still active. So if it's stolen, and I think on WordPress, I should know this, but it's either like 24 or 48 hours before it expires. So you close, you log in, you do some work on a WordPress site, and you just close the tab or that window, that browser window, that cookie's still active on your site. You go to another site, your computer gets infected with an info stealer, and it starts stealing information. The hacker's got 24 to 48 hours to use that cookie, log in as you, not even log in, just access the admin panel, and there it is. And they can create a bogus admin. They can do all sorts of stuff from that point, and they never have to log in. So now we see those differently in the logs. You can tell when somebody's authenticated via cookie or username and password. So it does show up differently in the logs. It's a very slight difference, but it's there, and it's definitely a difference. So hackers also make money by selling access on the dark web. So like I said before in the previous slide, they might gain access to 10,000 websites on a weekend, which is nothing. And they just package that all up and they sell it on the dark web. So somebody else wants to use those sites to attack other sites or to install phishing file, whatever their profit motivation is. They can buy access to a whole boatload of compromised websites, and up on the dark web. And like I said before, hackers make money by selling access to server resources. So you want to, do a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack on a whole bunch of sites. You could go up there, buy access, and you've got it. So we know why hackers hack, but how? And these are not in the order of frequency. I'll be one of two people I know that will say that 1 and 2 should be flipped. A lot of people keep saying that the number one way that hackers hack is through outdated plugins. It's not. So from the data that we've compiled, it's not. Now, if you were to ask me this during the essential Elementor add-on plugin fiasco back in May and June, yes, during that time, an outdated plugin was the primary way hackers were hacking. But overall, like if you look at like a year's worth of our data, info stealers are the primary way that hackers are hacking into websites. So the fact that you're not protecting your local assets, your Macs, your PCs, whatever you're using to log in to your WordPress sites with, the fact that you're not protecting those with as much vigor as you should or could, just lends credence to the fact that hackers are stealing information off your computers and using it to infect websites. And again, there's a friend of mine, Kelvin, from Germany, from snicko.io. He has, a login system. So he and I exchange information frequently. And, one of the things up until recently that was pretty prevalent with plugins is that they were getting the IP address from the header. So they were getting it from the and when you get the IP address from the header, in an HTTP transaction, you can spoof it. So like occasionally we get reports from uh, from clients or prospective clients saying, hey, my server company sent me a notification that our server is being used to attack other websites. Can you look into this? How can this happen? Blah, blah, blah. And then we say, okay, have them send you the report, forward me the report. We take a look at it, and the plugin that was used to identify the IP address of the attack uses the wrong source. So hackers can spoof that IP address in the header when they attack that site. And it says it's like, 1.2.3.4.5, whatever, when it's actually not. So they're getting bogus reports. Now they have to pay somebody like us to investigate it, because otherwise their server company is going to shut them down. So, and that's why, Kelvin and I have a real problem with security plugins, is because, they're handling security, in our opinion, at the wrong layer. They're handling it like at the application. It should be handled before that. So anyway, but info stealers are huge. And like right now, there aren't any, websites that we see that are infected. It's not due to outdated plugins. I can't. It may have been since June, July, that we really saw a number of websites that were infected due to outdated plugins. And you can look at WordFence has a great Threat intelligence feed, PatchStack puts one out, WP Scan puts one out, Focus on Your Biz. Stephanie Hudson, she has she puts out a list on Wednesdays. So you can see that, there's not like a huge wave of vulnerable plugins right now. Are there a lot of them? Yeah, but they're small. Their installation numbers are small, that it's not really going to give hackers anything to really, drool about. And as I said before, how, when you talk about how, you also have to keep in mind open Wi-Fi. Oh, one last thing about info stealers. You definitely need 2FA, but you also need to have your people log out. Just go up and hit the log out button, when they're in the admin panel, and that kills the authentication cookies. So if hackers do come, invade your system, that authentication cookie's dead at that point. So it's useless. Open Wi-Fi. I used to do this when I lived up in the Chicago area. You could go to a coffee shop, obviously talk to the owner. That's what I would do, and set up a duplicate Wi-Fi hotspot. When I mean duplicate, like if it was, a coffee shop, Joe's Coffee, I'd set up a duplicate Wi-Fi hotspot called Joe's Coffee. But I was make sure that, like, I'm sitting in the cafe there, so people are going to pick up my signal as being stronger than the one that Joe provides in his cafe. So they're going to connect to mine. Once they're connected to mine, I can filter all sorts of stuff through there, and see what they're doing, see their logins, all kinds of stuff. So, and also under how, any method that they can think of. We're seeing stuff now where, um, hackers will infect a local computer, and while that legitimate person is logged in, we see traffic from the exact same IP address where they're installing a bogus plugin. And, talk to the people on the phone and, like, why were you installing this plugin? I'm like, I didn't. And they're like, that's what I'm talking about. There's like something going on where, as I'm working as an WP admin, hackers are infecting my site. It's like there's a ghost in my computer or something, and obviously whether you believe in ghosts or not, that's up to you. But, the fact remains is that, they're doing like a session hijacking. So they're operating from your computer while you're logged in. So the only weird things for us to see is that they're installing a bogus plugin during your session. Like, okay, oh yeah, you're checking on this plugin and you're going to update that plugin and so on and so forth. And oh, look at that, just installed a plugin. Oh, I didn't do that. So at any rate, it just lends credence to the fact that, how do hackers hack? Any method they can possibly think of, and many that haven't been thought of yet. We'll talk about games that they play. We've been hearing this a lot. If I tell people, well, somebody's login credentials were compromised, and like, well, if it was login credentials, all of our sites would be infected. No, hackers don't want to set off alarms. They want to stay in the site as much as possible. So what they'll do is they'll infect a few sites. Let's say we had a case recently where hackers are coming in through various admin panels. So they would steal the session cookie for that admin panel, log in, as like a super admin. Now they've got access to whatever, 100 sites. Well, they're not going to infect all 100, because they don't want to set off alarms. The more they infect from one location like that, somebody like us is going to put two and two together and say, okay, what's the common denominator here? It all came from this admin panel. So That's how they got in, close that up, and now they're all out. So they will infect a few sites that they have access to through one login, and then they watch to see how fast you react. If it's not very fast, then they'll maybe infect a few more, and then a few more. So we used to find, we play cat and mouse with them all the time. We're chasing them out of, like, say 20 sites. They'll infect sites 1 through 4, and then we get those clean, and then they infect sites 5 through 8. Then we get those clean, and then they're doing every odd numbered site, every even numbered site, and it just becomes cat and mouse. And another thing that they're doing is they create hidden processes, and this works even on shared hosting accounts with the big hosting companies. We've verified this because we've cleaned enough of them that, if you have a site where you see the malicious code inside of the index.php file. Right now, the on a WordPress site, the index file, uh, from download is 405 bytes. So you see one day that it's 529. Like, oh, there's something in there. So you go in, use your editor, remove that code, save it, refresh, and you look, wait, it's still 529. You open that file up again, look at the code. Hey, the code's right back. So in a case like that, hackers have created a hidden process, and they were stuck on one file called lock 360, LOCK 360, and that would run as a hidden process in memory on that website as that website owner. And so you could look for these hidden processes and say, okay, you kill it, and then it's done. So you remove all the malware, kill this process, then you can replace the index file with the 405 byte file from the original, and you'll stay clean. But if you see something where it's automatically reinfecting itself over and over again, chances are they've created a hidden process, and you may be able to delete it. If you can get to a command line, you may be able to delete it, but a lot of times the hosting providers will not allow you to get to a command line, so you have to contact their tech support and have them kill it. And then this latest game that they play, hackers, is this perpetual Perl programs. I don't know, I had to come up with something that was 3 Ps, so that's it. I lack creativity, but it is what it is. Anyway, what this is a file, excuse me, that I got all choked up over malware. This is a file that the hackers hide outside of the standard WordPress file structure, and it works in conjunction with the hidden processes. So what we were doing is, okay, we found a site, we had a website that we were cleaning. We killed the hidden process, and we find, like, in another, I think it was running roughly about 2 minutes, a new hidden process would be created, and there was no traffic to the site during that 2-minute period. So it's not like they were like, we missed some back door that the hackers left there. And so then we're like, okay, well, this is kind of weird. And then, we check the hidden processes again, and we find out that, wait a minute, the one that we were looking at a minute ago is no longer there. And now it's been replaced by this one. So what the hackers were doing, I think it was like every 3 seconds, it would kill the original hidden process, recreate, like respawn a, a duplicate. I'm sorry, change that order. It would, one hidden process would spawn a duplicate and then kill itself. And then it kept doing that every 3 seconds. So it was always a different, what they call a PID. So the process was like self-perpetuating. That's why I got the perpetual. But we couldn't figure out, like, how is this happening? Something must be controlling it from above. Ta-da. And what it was this Perl program, heavily obfuscated, and I had to dig way back into early days of Perl to decode this. But that Perl program was running, and it was set up almost like a server cron job. So it would run, it would check, see if any of those hidden processes were running. If not, it would spawn a new one that would self-perpetuate itself and go on and on. So what we had to do is we had to kill this Perl program, and then we could kill the processes, and then there was no more reinfection. So, and this is stuff that you can't do from a plugin. Like I said, that this Perl program was outside of the WordPress file system structure. So to find it, and in this particular scenario, this individual is running 3 different security plugins on that WordPress site, and they came to us because he said that somebody told him that we find stuff that nobody else does. Well, we did. So at any rate, and I'm not going to name the 3 security plugins. So what are the most popular methods? It changes, but like, as I said before, it's not what you think. Everyone's saying, oh, it's outdated plugins. Depending on what time frame you're looking at, it is outdated plugins. But for the life of, like for the span over a year, it's not security plugins. It's stolen credentials. I'm sorry, it's not security plugins. It's not outdated plugins. It's stolen login credentials. And here's some information on like, this is a bunny loader. It's a malware service. Yeah, I mean, hackers have organized into legitimate, well, not legitimate, but services, and they offer malware as a service. Some things I know they changed their name, and I apologize to the iThemes people. Devin and crew should have this changed to Solid WP, but theirs is a great. It's a good plugin to use. They've got 2FA. They've got a number of other features in there that help keep your sites secure. And no, I'm not an affiliate. And then I've got this other one, how this other malware uses Google Chrome dev tools to steal data. So it actually installs malicious extensions that take screenshots. I thought this was like really cool. I was really impressed by this. So I see I'm going to run over time here. Sorry, folks. Who am I? I started focusing on website security in 2007. Removed malware, not me personally. I wrote programs to programmatically analyze files and determine with 100% accuracy if they're malicious or not. So we've removed malware from over 5.5 million websites. We now currently, as of today, actively monitor 7.2 million websites. We do have a freemium service, and at times the freemium, I like the freemium service better than paid service, because the paid service also includes obviously some prevention methods. The freemium service does not. So we get to, it's like having a honeypot of 7.2 million nodes, which is pretty impressive. One of the things our paid service does, well, both our paid and our freemium service does, is we stream your log files into our system, and our systems we now can ingest, and we are ingesting over 20 million log entries per second. So we're gathering data in real time, real time. And that 20 million log entries per second, if you do the math, it's 1.78 trillion log entries per day are analyzed. I just like putting trillion up there because, That's pretty cool. So anyway, that's it. Like to see if there's some questions in here. Hello, Kathy.
I'm back. Well, I haven't left, but I am back on screen. Great presentation.
Thank
And
you.
I know you and I are going to have a deeper conversation next week about some of this cookie stealing stuff that you're seeing, because that is fascinating. And
Yeah.
I want to go deeper. So we'll just tease that because
Yeah. Stay tuned to Kathy.
and Tom.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of questions. I want to make sure that we get some of those in. Hiding the login IP at all. It sounds like it doesn't matter a ton since hackers can usually get that. I think hiding the login, I think we mean hiding the login page, because I know that's something that I hear a lot from people. What's your take on hiding login?
I guess in the overall scheme of things, when you talk about defense in depth, it can add a layer of defense, um, and you will see less hits on your login page. Even though it'll return 404s, you'll see fewer hits on your login page if you're hiding the login URL. So, but as an end all be all, no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I found I had to scan a document, and I found this really old thumb drive that has all of like my really old FTP logins, because I knew not to keep them on my computer, and I didn't have a password manager. So I was like, I'm going to put them on here, and I put them in a folder called EFF hyphen F and then TEE dash PEE. So FTP. I'm like, "Oh, you're clever, Kathy.
Wow.
Nice obfuscation there."
Yeah.
To me, that's like hiding the login page. It's like, yeah, okay, but if
That's
anybody does find, it's still there, right?
right.
There's still a login. And with hiding the login page, for me, it just causes more problems for you. Like, what did I change it to? I know I changed it to something really obscure that nobody can guess, but I've also then hidden it from myself. So you run that risk. So it's obfuscation, it's hiding things, but it still exists, right?
Right.
So
That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah, that just happened yesterday. I'm like, oh,
I'll have
past
to
self.
remember that story.
I am totally fussing to it. I put it up on Twitter and fussed to it. Let's see. We have this question. How important is disabling cron jobs on your site? It always comes up on security scans, but it's also necessary for certain functionality.
Um, it's actually, if you were to analyze log files, like Kathy, like I do,
Yeah.
get my Brandy snifter and open up some screens of log files and just scan through them. Um, if you were to see how often WP cron is actually hit
Yeah.
in a normal day, uh, not so much from a security standpoint, but from the fact that it's just like chewing up resources, because that WP cron runs every time somebody hits your site. So, and there's articles online, like I said, it has nothing to do with security, but from a resource utilization factor, disabling cron, I'm a huge fan of that.
Are you? Okay. I'm always afraid I'm going to break something because I know that there are things that require it.
Right. But, again, test.
Sure. Of course. Yeah. Greg, also a connoisseur of fine log files.
And Greg, are you any relation to the uh, Colorado Avalanche hockey player, McKinnon? Yeah, I'm a hockey fan,
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah,
schedule
okay, yeah,
post real
scheduled,
quick.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's
yeah.
one thing. Um, Security plugins that you do
Oh,
recommend. I know we both have some thoughts on this.
yeah. Um, it's tough to say. What I will say is this: if you're concerned about security and you want to go the plugin route, I encourage you to go the paid security plugin route. Um, One of the things that became very apparent to me during the essential element or add-ons exploit was that people that had the paid version of I'll say it, of WordFence
Yeah.
were protected immediately. The people who didn't, I think they issued an update to the non-paid WAF rules like 20 or 30 days after they announced that exploit, and people were just getting nailed with it. So either you have to go the paid plugin route, or you have to commit to updating your plugins on a regular basis. And I don't mean once a quarter as being regular.
Right.
You got to do it,
Right.
every couple of days.
Right.
So
Yeah. And I think of security much, there's all sorts of different aspects of security, right? We have the OSA model, we have the network layer, we've got application layer. There's so much going on, right? And security should really be thought of on every single one of those layers. So like Cloudflare having I think people should have Cloudflare just in, first of all, their DNS, when if you have to move your site from one server to another so fast.
right,
And if you are ever under attack with the DDoS, you have immediate remediation available with Cloudflare. It's there for you. It's also making your site faster with the CDN. So I just
right,
recommend Cloudflare and having that security off server to begin with. And then, I think of security plugins as the place that helps people, guides people to make better security decisions.
mm-hmm,
Um, about their site, about their login, making sure you have two-factor authentication available in case you or one of your users' passwords ever do show up in a breach, that second layer of authentication is available. I'm a big fan of what Solid Security is doing just because they have passkeys, and I know that passkeys is just going to change the way we log into WordPress and everything else. So I think it's time for us to start using passkeys wherever we possibly can and start training other people to do that, because it's going to make the web as a whole safer. So
right.
there's my
And Google's betting on it. So
yeah. Google, Apple's passkey team is really active as well. PayPal
right,
has it. Stripe has it has passkeys as a second factor of authentication. More and more large organizations are really pushing this new method of authentication that just, I mean, it's going to stop things like brute force attacks. It's going to stop things like
right,
phishing attacks. You can't fish away somebody's passkey. I'm sure
right,
a hacker's going to figure out something.
right.
I keep trying to figure out what, and I'm not there yet. I'm just not smart enough, but I'm excited to see what kind of I'm weird that way because I think it's so clever and creative what hackers do. That's one of the
Oh,
reasons why it's like this. I love
yeah.
talking to people like you about what's going on.
Like I said, one of my stories, real quick. One of my stories was I cleaned a site for a guy, and he's like, "Man," he goes, "You are so smart." I'm like, "Well, it's not. This isn't rocket science." And he starts laughing. He goes, "Yeah, I know. I am a rocket scientist." I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry."
I love it.
So,
That's awesome. Tom, before we go, where can people find you if they have more questions about their site security? Your website, your socials.
yeah, you can probably the best way. You can send email to Traef, TRAEF, at We Watch Your Website. My last name is Raef, which, by the way, is fear spelled backwards for you who don't know.
I love that for a security person. That's perfect. Greg's got one last question. Let's try to get this answered. Do you recommend using or managing multiple sites updates with like managed WP or other centralized services?
Yes, because it provides a convenience factor. So people can't say, "Oh, it's such a pain. I got to log into every site and do this and that." No, yeah, do with the main WP, WP umbrella, managed WP. I don't know. There's sync, um,
Solid Central.
solid central. Sorry, I'm having a tough time with these name changes.
Oh, me too. Me too. My
But
database tables are not updated at all.
yeah, mine either. I keep trying to do an upsert and it's not working. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, definitely recommend.
yeah.
You know,
But
pick
log
one.
out when you're done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kill that cookie.
Even with the managing management consoles, log out when you're done.
Yeah. Good, good, good. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go, Thomas. Thank you so much for being here. And we're on the calendar for next week, I think. I'm pretty sure I sent
Yep.
you an invite.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to dive even deeper on all of this stuff. And
It'll be
have a
fun.
great weekend.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
as well, Kathy. Take care.